Hey everyone, how are you doing financially these days? It's tough out there. So many have lost their jobs, and the ones that have been able to keep them have had to take pay cuts. It's been excruciating, and there's a lot of energy and fear that we place around money, right? I'm Jackie Manha, and in today's episode of What Do I Know? I want to talk about the energy of money and how it can just ruin us. Back in 2001, I got divorced, unfortunately. And I had 4 teenagers at the time. And I hadn't worked a full-time job in probably 20 years. I always had little part-time gigs that brought in some money, but I was a full-time mom. And now I had to figure out how I was going to jointly pay for college. And I wanted to keep the homes. So how am I going to pay the mortgage? My former husband was sweet enough to always live up to his financial responsibility and pay me the little alimony that was due me, but it wasn't enough. So I lived in a lot of fear. I didn't know how I was going to keep it all together. I had just started my real estate career and it wasn't doing well. Then a few years into this, a dear friend of mine who was dying of cancer had a condo down in Cabo, and he offered it to me for a week to take my kids. And I thought, oh my gosh, how do I do that? I don't have any extra money to pay on a trip. I just had enough money to get through month to month. And then I remembered a little savings account that I tucked away for a rainy day. The rainy day probably being when I can't pay my mortgage, right? And I just every once in a while put a little bit of money in there. And I remembered I had it, and I thought, do I spend it all on this trip or do I save it? And I decided to throw caution to the wind and take my kids to Cabo. And so all 5 of us went and had the time of our lives. It was the first time I could really take them on a trip since the divorce. And it's a memory I hold in my heart forever. And it wasn't long before we got back that all of a sudden my real estate career started taking off and money started flowing a little bit easier. It made me stop and think about how much energy I wanted to put on the money in my life. Okay, we need money. We have to pay our bills. We need to feed ourselves, our kids, educate your children. We can't be stupid. We need money. But when I started focusing on my family more than on where the money was going to come from, it really opened up my life quite a bit. And I began to see money as just an energy source, and that I prefer to give my energy someplace else. Let's face it, money comes and it goes in and out. That's just how it is. But I began to see that the fear that I was living in, and it's not to say I didn't fall back into it over the time, but I knew to snap out of it quicker because that's not where I wanted my energy. Right now, we're all living in a lot of fear. How do we pay the bills? About the disease? What do we do? What do we don't do? And fear can compromise our immune system. And right now, we need to keep that really strong. So I ask you today, where are you putting your energy? And where are you letting fear creep into your lives? Maybe it's not money. Maybe it's the fact that your kids are so far away and you can't get to them. Maybe you have sick family members and you can't be with them. All totally understandable. But we have to try to release our fear and put value on the things that we need to put value on. So I leave you with that thought. Where are you placing your energy and your fear these days? And I'll see you next week. And if you like this video, I'd like to know about it. I'd like to know what you'd like to hear about, what could be different. And if you'd like to subscribe, there's a little button over in the corner there that you can subscribe, and you will get these as soon as they come out. All right, everyone. Till next week, stay strong. Bye-bye.